Welcome to China Watch Wednesday. And I just have to say, we are getting the details of the shooting in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and our prayers go out to the families, especially of the parents of the 8 and 10-year-old children that we've just heard were victims of this shooting. And the shooter has committed suicide, so there's no imminent threat in this particular shooting. But this is one of 4 shootings that started as of last night. They have not told us whether or not they're connected. And This is just unconscionable. And they said on the school shooting that the police were dealing with another shooting. So this lets you know when there aren't enough police for a major city uh, in critical times when you need them there as soon as possible, that is the cost. And we need to get smarter about this. We need to get smarter about our police, our cities, and how we manage crime. And I'm sure the details are going to come out. But I just didn't want to start the show without acknowledging that our prayers and our thoughts go to the state of Minnesota, to the people in Minneapolis, and to these families who may have lost everything today. So um, I am joined by my co-host Ava Chen from the New Federal State of China. Ava, welcome back to China Watch Wednesday. So happy to have you here today.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Kathleen. It's great to be here.
Um, so, there is a lot of stuff going on. And one of the things that we have talked about in the past, but I don't think we've underlined it in the report that you sent me about Chinese students coming here. And so some of them come here, but their families are being held hostage back in China. And I don't think we've ever discussed it from that angle, in that it is the people that are here that are doing the bidding of the CCP as a student, essentially are doing so, even though they look like they're out walking around, but their family is being held hostage back in China. So I wanted to delve into that today with your permission, and just I don't think people understand that that's the nature, not of all foreign students, but particularly people that are brought here by the CCP. So is it okay if we start there today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think that's one of the hottest topics right now
Yeah.
online.
So please go ahead, and because it's, this firsthand, the dynamic between the CCP disappearing relatives, or basically if a student comes here, the dynamic that exists between the CCP, the student, and the student's family. So explain
Mm-hmm.
to the listeners what, it's not that they're getting a free ride to college. It's not that they're going to get to go and live this incredible life once they get an education outside of China. They're essentially here as a slave.
Yeah, so I wanted to first just say that, because acknowledge this is probably one of the most heated topics right now, as President Trump met the president of South Korea. And then during the conversation in White House, President Trump mentioning about China and his good relationship with Xi Jinping, and he planned to kind of a doubling the amount of Chinese visa given to the Chinese students. It was 300,000, but now he's mentioning a number that reaches 600,000. And that instantly, I would say, kind of brought a lot of backlash coming from both, left and right. And I've seen commentaries online and on TV shows talking about this is unacceptable. But today I'm not criticizing anybody's policy or whatever, but I wanted to give you a different aspect.
Please.
And this aspect is often overlooked, misunderstood by majority of Americans. Because I see a lot of comment, they're lashing out on the Chinese people. And they say, no more Chinese here in the United States.
Yes.
Facing realities, there's over like a 5 million to 8 million Chinese here, and we don't want to repeat what has been done in World War II when, Pearl Harbor happened. The U.S. government ordered FDR, ordered, prison of entire Japanese nation. And that is humanitarian crisis on top of a war. And that's not what we want. And I understood where a lot of Americans coming from
But they
because
don't
they worry
understand the
about,
distinction.
they don't understand exactly. This is why it's so important on China Watch that we emphasize on this concept that the CCP does not represent the Chinese people. So I wanted to disclose this terrorist organization. This is purely coming from a rogue regime, and I sent it to you a interview that did. Sam did. Sam, his last name is Sam Faddis, and he was interviewing with I think it was Netley Winters on Warren, and he actually mentioned exactly what the CCP regime has done to the ordinary Chinese family. And you have to remember, out of those 300,000 Chinese students, I mean, there are percentage of children, a youth coming from privileged class, which they are coming from within the party members and high-ranking party officials, those princelim, but they are very small percentage. Majority of the students are coming from ordinary families, and they are looking for freedom, and they wanted to have a better education. This is why they apply universities in abroad, right? Harvard and Australia, whatever Canadian university. They didn't know many of those universities has already been infiltrated by the communists, by Chinese Communist Party. They don't know. Nobody told them, and everything is propaganda. So they're looking for freedom. They're looking for better their life. So that's why the parents' savings, put money all together. They save the money and enable their children to go abroad and study, and which they had every dream that parents has for their own children, but they didn't know that the CCP has established a network of controlling all those Chinese students. We've talked about the organization that CCP has established within each university. It's called Chinese Students and Scholar Association, and they sending their espionage, the spies, taken over those cell that embedded in every university, plus those espionage and spies they implanted, embedded in Confucius institutions, established a network in each university trapping those Chinese students and scholars and non-Chinese students and scholars. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is their dark network they have been building, and the purpose is to surveillance, to monitor every single Chinese student studying abroad. Okay, and the purpose here in the video that I sent it to you, Sen, that is talking about the Chinese Communist Party using their monitoring 24/7 surveillance, the monitoring the WeChat, their communications from students to their families, and they looking for those students who are in possession or maybe in collaboration in a very, let's say, has implication of national security, for example, a very high advanced technology research lab. They identify and locating and monitoring those Chinese students and their communications. Why? Because they will threatening them with their loved
With
one
their
at
love.
home.
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly. So Sam was saying, literally, the CCP embassies and consulates around the world, they were inviting those students to come to the offices, all, like in the embassy, off the embassy, whatever. They have so many United Front agencies. They have offices all over the place, even secret police stations, right?
In New
They
York.
brought in those students, and they were threatening those students and saying, putting their grandma or the parents on the call and force those students to do things otherwise they would not do or they refuse to do, because if they refuse, their loved ones will be incarcerated, will be beaten, will be
Or
tortured.
worse.
On
Exactly.
top of it,
Yeah.
or worse, yes, on top of it, the CCP would say, if you do this to me, if you help me stealing this or sleeping with some politician, corrupt them, or taking videos or whatever, or sending this whatever, then I will give you tuition free. I will sponsor you to get scholarship and you will have this, you will have that. But if you don't do that, your mom and your dad, your grandma is going to suffer. So what is your choice? You tell me, what would you choose? If you were put in that situation and your government is forcing you doing what's wrong and what's right, what would you do?
Exactly. And that's the question. We have to take a quick break. We are talking to Ava Chen from the new federal state of China about how the CCP, not the Chinese people, how the CCP is forcing Chinese students to spy, to corrupt, to devise plans against the American people. Uh, and if they don't, harm can come to their families. You are listening to China Watch Wednesday with my co-host Ava Chen on 1030 The Voice, your trusted local news and talk. I'm Kathleen Winn. This is Winn Tucson. We'll be back after this very brief break. Don't go anywhere. You won't hear this anywhere else. It's important. Welcome back to China Watch Wednesday with my co host, Ava Chen. And Ava was with the new federal state of China. And Ava has pointed out that the Trump administration had been saying that they were going to limit the Chinese students coming. But he made a U turn last week and he said that he spoke not only to the South Korean president um, in the Oval Office, but he also reached out to Xi Jinping and he said that he told him that they'd be honored to have their students here and emphasized that while the U.S. is careful, and that's in air quotes, in vetting international students, they play a vital role in supporting American colleges. This is a shift from earlier restrictions, and it was, Steve Bannon, who we both know, said there should be no foreign students here for the moment. And Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene also questioned the policy, stating that if the colleges collapse without funding from Chinese students, then these schools should fail anyways because they're being propped up by the CCP. And so I think both of those, I think all the points are valid, but I am so concerned about the vetting, Ava. So we haven't to this point that you're bringing up, which is it's not just about the student coming here; it's about the pressure or the coercion or the link to the CCP? And can the U.S. really properly vet um, all of that when they accept a student? Because that's not going to show up in their record, correct?
Hmm. That's right. So people would intentionally, lie and obfuscate the real information. So the vetting is really important. But I want to bring the other two aspects,
Please.
particularly one, because we talk about the dark espionage network. It's already built within the United States. Okay, you only listed one. You barely touch anything yet, but there is no further um, actions right now, not fast enough to literally get rid of those infiltration, those nodes, okay, that the CCP has embedded inside your country. And that's the problem because it's not just Chinese, although they focus on the Chinese students because they already have the network. They already have them, under surveillance 24/7. They control their communication. But the same thing happens to Americans. Like yesterday, just a few days ago, if we look at Navy, American Navy soldiers sold the country, national security for 12,000 to CCP handler. I mean, these kind of things happens every day. It doesn't have to be only Chinese. It can be Hispanic. It can be African American. The reason why is your country has been already, I would say, penetrated with such a, I would say, such a comprehensive networking of a spy of spies. There are sleep cells. They're ranging from the low level spies all the way to very sophisticated. Even those with the diplomacy with immunity of a diplomacy. Okay, like a consulates and embassies, they carry out tasks that is harming American every single day, and you have been allowing that to happen for decades, for decades. So I think the, in order to solve this crisis, avoiding adding more humanitarian crisis on top of crisis, America, especially law enforcement, with the knowledge you have already accumulated, you really need to solve those embedded cell, those espionage cell that from the Chinese Communist Party and their spokesperson, their proxies. You need to really focusing on them because whoever coming into our country will be captured by this network and will be captured by this established nodes and turning them into something that would harming America and Americans' national security. So I think that is the aspect a lot of people overlooked and not paying enough attention in terms of who are the CCP's proxies. And we already said, you already know who are they. And some of the establishment is a United Front organizations. There are thousands of them in the United States. These are nonprofits. These are so-called Chinese community-based
Yes.
organizations.
So this isn't
They're
just
already
one
taking over.
dimensional. This isn't just students that are here. This is other
No.
industry leaders and business people and the network that the CCP has built in this country. Um, and and they use this the colleges as a battleground, if you will. But then they're disguising and hiding other places where they've infiltrated around our military bases um, in business. And as we know, and we can talk about it after this segment, but uh, one of the things that Miles Guo warned people about in New York's City and New York State was the infiltration of the CCP into the government there, and that Mandami is their candidate. And do we really want to
Mm-hmm.
elect somebody in New York City, one of the largest cities, if not the largest city in the country, to be the mayor when he is controlled by a communist regime and the oligarchs from China? I think it's not even complicated. It's kind of like they're exposing it in full view. That to me is the arrogance of evil. They are just out there flaunting um, what they're doing. There's no hiding it anymore, and we have to become vigilant as Americans to say, You know, we are still the U.S. China relationship remains tense over trade and technology. Um, and this debate over Chinese students, it's very important, but it's a distraction, I think. And it's not that we shouldn't expose what's going on, but now the Trump administration's looking at a worldview, and I think he's going to concede this point for what I'm going to put in air quotes the greater good. I don't know that it isn't the undermining of everything that he's trying to do. And I think that's what you're trying to point out. Is that fair, Ava?
Yeah, I think so. This is a very complex problem, and don't forget, as a president elected by American people, he has a responsibility, right, to not only keep to keep your savings, like to keep the national interest per se, like keep your wealth that you accumulated, your 401k, your economy, right, but also keep you safe, physically safe from any harm, right? So it's a complex job, and many of the things that we talk about, it's not him. He tried to address things the first term. We're solving a historical issue, literally was piled up for decades,
Yeah.
and now culminated into a crisis. So just be fair. This is very complicated. That's why I think people need to understand the insight here. Then you would actually identify those hot buttons, those buttons that you push that would lend this softly for American. Because another component I want to say is the CCP is weaponizing any market. Although we're talking about students,
Yeah.
right? But think about students as just a representative of a certain group of people. It could be business person, it could be scholar, it could be think tank, professor, whatever, whoever that the CCP can lay their hands on using the same dark network of espionage. Okay, they can targeting anyone so easy because students are vulnerable. That's why they do it so easily. But that doesn't mean that they don't do it to another group of people. But one thing you have to face, you have to, really admit it, is the CCP government is a rogue government. They're using everything they can as a leverage. For example, right now you have articles coming out and say, the universities are really relying on foreign tuitions. American universities, they cannot survive if they do not continue absorbing a foreign tuition. And guess who are the top two countries that's sending
China.
students? Exactly. Top one is China. Okay.
Yes.
And then you look at other countries. So that means a lot. So President Trump is under pressure, right?
Yes.
This is economic issue again.
Ava?
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
It's break time. I'm so sorry. And so hold that thought because President Trump is under pressure for many different reasons. But I think this is so important that we understand this, and it is complex. So we're going to have to take the time to break it down. You're doing a great job. You are listening to China Watch Wednesday with my co-host Ava Chen from the new federal state of China on 1030 The Voice, your trusted local news and talk. And we are live streaming China Watch on YouTube. So you can go online to youtube.com and search for 1030 The Voice, and you can watch us there. So we'll be back right after this. Kathleen Winn Tucson on KVOI. Welcome back to China Watch Wednesday with my co host, Ava Chen. Ava is one of the smartest people I know when it comes to the CCP, to China, to the Chinese people. And there is a distinction between the two. And the Chinese people are being persecuted, are being used as slaves, um, and are being oppressed by a very small group of people that have all the power and control. It is the difference between freedom and what we don't want is we don't want our country to become like China. So, Ava, right before we went to break, you were saying that President Trump is under pressure. So, please continue. Sorry we have to take these news breaks, but it's important. And what you're saying is really important today. So, go ahead, please. Ava, you're muted.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the reminder. Thank
Yes,
you,
you're welcome.
Kathleen.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, the CCP would weaponize everything. The thing that they weaponize the best and repeatedly is the market of China and the Chinese people's ingenuity. Okay.
Yes.
And if you think these are two separate concepts, the real regime, only controlled by a few, handful, five CCP kleptocracy families. Okay. And the other side are the 1.4 billion Chinese people.
Five
Okay.
families.
So
Think about that. Five families and a billion
on the
people.
top, yes.
That's
Yeah, call it
ridiculous.
swamp. Yeah, you can call them swampy
Yeah, yeah,
families
yeah.
and
The
control
Chinese swamp.
many of
Is
the
that what it is?
resources. Yeah, yes, and pretty much these are two separate things. If you view them separately, then you would suddenly understand what's going on. So they weaponize the markets, the Chinese people, and their innovations, their aspirations, which that's why they need propaganda, they need lies, they need digital firewall. They don't want them to have receive and access to the free flow of information. That's why they put on the digital firewall because they create the best conditions for propaganda. Okay, so they lie to the people, so the people would show their loyalty to the party. The people would not know the essence of what the CCP is. So then then they weaponize the market, the Chinese market, which in this particular case, when we talk about education and students, they do it so nicely. President Trump has already said, coming up the negotiation with China, give and take. So he might give a little bit more U.S. visa to the students. But the harsh reality, economic and reality is, I mean, the other day, the Commerce Secretary Lutnick admitted on the Laura Ingraham Fox News, and he was saying the bottom 15% of U.S. college and university was simply bankrupt, shutting down without that revenue, without the international tuition coming from foreign students. And the number one of them is Chinese.
China.
And of course, there's other Chinese students, and the others are India and South Korea and elsewhere. So they cannot survive. And then if you recall in previous shows, we talk about Harvard, those Ivy League universities and who like their revenue sources, there's three revenue sources, right? Mainly.
Right.
One is government funding, which is taxpayers funding, right? And now taxpayers are asking the question, why I'm funding an institution that is loathes the American, that is anti-America. It definitely you should
Which
ask
is
the
many
question.
college campuses.
Yeah.
The indoctrination that has been going on in education didn't just happen this year. It has been going on for 10, 20, 30 years. This is not new. It's just reached a fever pitch. And now it's benefiting a foreign a foreign entity that isn't really necessarily for America.
Yeah, absolutely. So the second biggest revenue items, other than the taxpayers, right, funding, and the other one is tuition fee. Okay, if you look at their balance sheet, like income statements, and of university, Ivy League University, which you can find on website because these are tax exempt institutions, so they have to file forms, 990 forms. So, and the other one is tuition fees, and then the third part of revenue and is coming from collaborations, cooperations, funding from it could be and projects from foreign governments, but most importantly, the other third revenue items is investment. And those universities, you will find out, they're holding billions and billions of assets and they are putting them on investment. And guess where they invest? They invest in emerging markets. So many of those monies are actually in a
You've
globalist coffer. They're enriching a globalist coffer, and majority of them are actually in China. In China, in Hong Kong, in those companies that has various ties to the Chinese Communist Party. So this is why, when you look at the money, if you follow the money, you will realize a lot of those Ivy League universities are no longer in the business of educating people. Okay, they're actually in the business of investment, and they're actually in the business of selling access to foreign government, especially to rogue government like the Chinese Communist Party. This is dangerous because
Well,
education is supposed to work on.
it's precedent before a financial collapse. This is what happens before, uh, you lose everything because, like Madoff
Mhm.
from New York, it was like a pyramid scheme. I don't know that this is that, but what you're doing is you're selling things and you are manipulating markets, and as a result, you're not getting what you're paying for, and you're stealing. This is theft.
Hmm. Yeah. So this is just one example how the CCP weaponizing the Chinese people's purchasing power. And remember, if the number did jump from 300 to 600,000, many of those are ordinary families. Okay, these are the ordinary Chinese families just like you saving for your kids or the kids, working at McDonald's and saving the tuition, no difference.
Right.
And they're looking for better themselves. But what's here is the it is oppressive and rogue regime that has, for a large part, escape accountability. The reason why they can escape accountability is because they have been compromised. They have compromised your societal elite as their insurance policy. So they're not be holding accountable in your country. Having said that, you haven't heard anyone was holding accountable by operating the CSSA, the Chinese Student and Scholar Association. I mean, except for Fang Fang. Fang Fang has left the country, who slept with Eric Swalwell, right? But
Right.
she fled the country, I think it was 2016, but nobody was held accountable for that. Nobody. Have you ever heard anybody was in charge or investigated or whatever sentence? No.
No.
So this network is still existing as we speak. Okay, the United Front Organization, the CCP's tentacles of espionage operations still existing, and nobody's addressing that. And that's the problem because they're not just focusing on the Chinese; they're focusing on your mayor, and not just the one mayor. They're focusing on all
No,
showrunners.
we have if you go to blue cities and I
Yeah.
guarantee you and you lift up or you investigate, you'll find that this is not just a New York City problem. That we
Mm-hmm.
have many uh, corrupted mayors around the country, and mayors that are uh, working with an ideology that is counter to the Constitution, to the laws of this country. Just look at what's happening in Minneapolis today, the shootings. Uh, that is a very blue city, and they
Mm-hmm.
have defunded. They haven't really defunded. They've underfunded, which is different. Where you
Mm-hmm.
leave a police force in place, but it's not effective because you're not giving it uh, what it
Mm-hmm.
needs, and so they're trying to
Yeah.
demoralize and diminish the presence of law enforcement. Why? Because if you want to take over a nation, you do exactly what they're doing. It is part of a bigger plan. And you've always said, the Chinese, the CCP are very patient. Their plan is not overnight. This is not an overnight plan. This is a well thought out strategic plan that weakens the enemy so that they can just easily, without firing a shot, so to speak, can take them over. And you've shared that. If you've shared that once, you've shared that a lot, many times. But it bears repeating because we're witnessing it, and uh, and they are getting more aggressive and more open in what they're trying to do. So it is
Mm-hmm.
it's a very critical time. Um, Ava, has there been any updates as it relates to Miles or no?
I think there's some updates coming soon. I understand Miles is lawyer is working on some motions, and we probably would see the motions very soon on public docket. But other than that, he's still holding a very high spirit, and he last night he actually not last night but yesterday he met his daughter, which his daughter shared some of the information with us on Getter on the social media, and so all the fellow fighters would you know get a glimpse of his status. So we appreciate those weekly updates coming from family members.
That's so
So
great.
yeah, he's doing great. He's doing great, and we're doing great. And we know the CCP is going down, and there's no other way. And we're just standing here, and we hope that the justice would come back. And we really hope that with the new leadership in the South District of New York, with the new leadership in at the like I hate to call it purge, but the change within the judicial system, I'm hoping that with different people in charge, with the good leaders in charge, those things will be looked at it and
Yeah.
examined and investigated.
My
And
hope,
then there
my
will be
hope is that
more
they
truth
find a
coming
burn
out.
bag with everything that has Miles Quo stuff in it that they haven't burned either. So we've got to take a quick break. That's what I keep hoping for. My little things that keep me up at night that make me happy. So we are talking to Ava Chen from the new federal state of China, China Watch Wednesday. Always something new, always something important, and always something to keep the listeners aware. Make you some of the smartest listeners that there are here on Winn Tucson, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11. But China Watch Wednesday is always my favorite show to do. So we're going to take a quick break, and we come back. We'll finish up on 1030 The Voice, your trusted local news and talk. Welcome back to China Watch Wednesday. This is Win Tucson, and every Wednesday we delve into the CCP and how it's affecting the United States of America. And there's no shortage of information because this didn't just start when President Trump took over on January 20th of 2025. This has been going on even before his first term, and it's important that we understand the impact. So, Ava, we've got about 12 minutes left. What else do you think is important? And I saw Steve Bannon's comments on this also, um, and And he was really calling out the fact that the connection between Mandami and the
Mhm.
CCP, which I think people need to understand. If we don't like the CCP, we certainly shouldn't like the candidate for the mayor in New York, Mandami.
Mhm. I think I wanted to add to that because if you subscribed to NFSC Speaks channel on Getter,
Yes,
we have been putting out those very informative
eh,
short videos, like a 1 minute each.
yes,
And if you look at Mandami, is the left is a Democratic candidate, but it's not about left and right. If you look at your Republican candidates, and you will see CCP's shadow all over as well. And this is a key point that Americans keep forgetting. Okay, why are you fighting your own internal pendulum in terms of vote left and right?
mm-hmm.
CCP doesn't care. They have planted all of those because Winnie the Greco with Eric Adams. You know, if you go to see the shorts that we put it out, Winnie the Greco was a spy, a CCP operative. And she has been, in the past decade or so, influenced state level politicians, not just the mayor in New York City, but also those attorney generals, like state senators and state legislators. She has been all over the place. She has organized trips to China multiple times. She was under a banner of economic and cultural exchange. And she brought so many people. And don't forget, Linda Sun, who was the former aide to Kumo and to Kathy Hochul. And
Yes,
she and her husband was indicted and charged with so many charges. And don't look away. And these are Republicans. When it comes to the Mandani, right?
yeah,
Rosa Mandani, the same thing. Who is funding him? Okay, it's like a first degree. You connected to Shanghai. You connect to Chinese Communist Party directly. And not only talk about money, but we talk about TikTok. Mandani's success largely attributed to the TikTok. So who controls the TikTok black box algorithm to boosting something and to support
CCP.
something? That's the Chinese Communist Party.
Which is
So
why
there you go.
we should not have, the fact that we've allowed TikTok to remain in this country is obscene.
Exactly.
And
So
that's another place where President Trump backed away when they should have shut that down. And I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Um, and it's not just him. I think that there needs to be an understanding that just because people like something and it might be unpopular to do something, this isn't just about popularity. This is about safety. This is about
mm-hmm.
what is in the best interest of the American
Yeah.
people.
And the CCP looks like is backing one candidate, but no, they want to own the horse track. Okay, they want to own the whole thing.
I
That
love
is
it.
why they're
That's
planting it
great. That's a great
everything.
analogy. Good. I like it.
Mm-hmm. Because people don't understand. So let me put this way for you, okay?
Yeah.
So a lot of Americans understand Iran is a rogue regime, okay? They understand Venezuela, Maduro is a rogue regime, and they understand North Korea is a rogue regime, but you don't understand. And I can tell you, the CCP's GDP is 660 times of North Korea, and CCP's GDP is 130 times of Venezuela, and CCP's GDP is 40 times of Iran. Times that those rogue regimes 660 times populated around the world and only control all the way to five families, faction families. Guess what would they do to the world? And they have those huge, massive amounts of resources. If you have 660 North Korea around the world, you have 130 Venezuela regime around the world, you have 40 Iranian regime in the world, what would they do to the democracy and to every people's life? You tell me. And they're doing it for 4-5 decades, every single day, chip by chip, bit by bit,
Mm-hmm.
and backroom by backroom, and vote by vote, and taking your freedom away. And they're still doing it.
Yes,
And you're supporting.
yeah, and we're helping. And we're
Still,
helping. We're
you're
helping.
helping because exactly. If the friends of this regime, the Chinese Communist Party, will be automatically equal to the enemy of the Chinese people.
Mm.
Period.
Yeah, it is you know, the There are some that say that the Chinese Communist Party is actually part of the Soviet Union Communist Party, and that they are working in tandem. Um, and so it, and 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 when we look at the CCP, um, and we look at Russia right now, uh, those are still really big threats to this country. And we cannot be empowering them or giving them a pass because some universities might shut down. Do I want universities to shut down? No. But I think Marjorie Taylor Greene makes a very valid point that if they can't exist without foreign students, then they're not serving the needs in our country of education. We didn't create, it's good to bring in outside influences. However, it is not good to bring in outside perpetrators who want to destroy you and make you self-reliant like they have. Like there's so many things that we conceded over, and we've talked about all these things before, so that we cannot, so we're crippling, so we're giving up our food production, we're giving up our farmlands, we're letting them steal military secrets, we are weakening ourselves so that we are making it easy for them to take over. Tomorrow, no. But this is why you have to draw a line in the sand and say, not on our watch, not now. Um, there's no common sense in what the CCP does. It's for one purpose only, to enrich those five families. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, and how they do it, uh, is they try to, um, and well, they don't even try. They've successfully infiltrated our country, and we push back in one area, but we don't push back completely. So they just kind of go in a different place. They're like a snake, that
Yeah.
slithers and goes someplace else. And it's really, if you don't understand that, and again, this is not the Chinese people, but this is their leadership. And I think they had full control over the last president and his administration,
Mm-hmm.
and manipulated. And we're still discovering those things, right? I jokingly said the burn bag, but I guarantee you that why Miles Guo is in prison right now, um, is because of the CCP and their relationship with the former president. I guarantee you that. I'm sure we're all going to find that out. I think we all know that intellectually, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to wait to see and have it proved to us, because the people that were in charge,
Absolutely.
yeah, right? I mean,
Yeah.
okay. So,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
and that's why it's important that we stand up and we speak out for those that have been oppressed and illegally jailed. He's still not been given any sentence. He's in prison and with no sentence. Why is that? Because if he's held in prison, um, he's not out in the public, and they believe that he is losing credibility. Where I think, like Steve Bannon, when he got out of prison, you know, uh, his stock rose. I think that same thing is going to happen
Mm-hmm.
with Miles Guo, and my hope is that he does not have to remain in prison much longer. That he gets
Mm-hmm.
to uh, be returned to his family and to the movement, because it is time that um, we understand what is happening uh, to the breadth and depth that we need to. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, anything else?
Yeah, it comes back.
Yes.
It comes back to, I mean, exactly the espionage network that embedded in the United States. Miles Gore in 2017
Hmm.
told us New York consulate, okay, New York consulate in the United States
Yep.
is the largest spy hub in the United States, and it's top five in the world. Okay, so shut down
The New York
the video that
consulate.
he did.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly, because under the Pompeo former secretary, he shut down the Houston consulate. But Miles Gore in 2020 said it's not a big deal at all. Houston. If you think Houston is bad, think about New York. Nothing would change in the United States until the New York consulate is shutting down because that's the largest spy hub here. He told us repeatedly, but still, what's going on? New York City is almost completely taken over by CCP. Doesn't matter where you look, left, right, and middle, all the candidates are CCP prompt candidates. Okay, it doesn't matter which mayor you chose, they're representing the Chinese Communist Party interest, not you, not the Republican, not the Democrats. Democrats. Okay, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
You think your vote means something? It doesn't mean anything. Miles Good told you that many years ago, but still, Americans let that happen because you're not fast enough. So I think you really have to pray up and wake up because CCP, as you said, they're a snake. They're changing.
Yep.
Look, August
Abe,
22, House Oversight Chairman James Comey
we got to
demanded
go. We got to go, honey.
DOJ.
I'm so sorry. We're
Okay.
done. And we'll pick it
Yep.
up there next week.
Yeah.
Ava Chen, New Federal State of China on Winn Tucson on 1030 The Voice, your trusted local news and talk. We'll be back right after this. Thank you.